Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and today I'm going to be reviewing the movie Sword of Swords. This is a 1968 Shaw Brothers release starring Jimmy Wang Yu and Feng. It was directed by Kang, who directed 14 Amazons and Flying Guillotine 2. And this is a really good movie. I thought this was great. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's a little longer than a lot of other Shaw Brothers films. Usually they clock in at 90 minutes. This one clocks in at 110 minutes or something. But it makes excellent use of that time. I usually like movies that have fight after fight after fight after fight, and this does not have that. This has a lot of really excellent fights, and I promise you by the end there's a pile of bodies and there's just a trail of blood leading to them. But before you get to that point, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of development. Some of the fights that happen early on are more reserved. I feel like the director was very disciplined in the way he sort of staggered the different fight sequences. It could have been very easy for him to just have this be a movie where Jimmy Wang Yu just cuts a trail of carnage to the climax, but instead he really takes his time, and so when the fight scenes happen, you're a little bit more invested. You care about the characters, and at the end of the movie, that's really important for the way that this develops. I am going to give away some spoilers because you really can't talk about this movie without getting into them. I'm not going to give you like a big rundown of the plot. The basic premise is there's this sword that's almost like a magical blade that everybody in the martial world wants, and the hero, played by Jimmy Wang Yu, has to get it to a hero who's going to give it to the royal court, and there are enemies, all over who want this blade. Uh, it starts out in the hands of Jimmy Wang Yu's master, and the villain, played by Feng, is part of a gang that's trying to acquire the sword, so he infiltrates the sect and he becomes a senior disciple, and he's just about to get the blade from the master when the master is ready to die, when his plot is uncovered and the blade ends up in the hands of Jimmy Wang Yu. And so this sort of sets up a rivalry between the Jimmy Wang Yu character and the Tien Feng character. And over the course of the rest of the movie, they're constantly doing things like kidnapping Jimmy Wang Yu's wife so that he'll come to her rescue and they can take the sword from him. Midway through the film, something really important happens, and this is a big spoiler. Uh, Jimmy Wang Yu is in the wilderness with his baby and confronts the Tien Feng character, and he ends up getting blinded and nearly dies. And it's a really great classic fight scene in the snow. But the key thing is, over like a little over halfway through the movie, he loses his sight, and so this ends up being a film about a blind swordsman. If you've followed my reviews, you know that I really like movies about characters that are missing an arm or have been blinded or missing legs, or just anybody that sort of had to embody the sort of enduring spirit aspect of martial arts. Um, I don't know. I find that resonates with me a lot, and a lot of these movies go in one of two directions. This one goes in the direction of it becomes a handicap that he overcomes, and he's able to sort of use his hearing to get around the things that he can't see. So, and it's really interesting the way they do it. There is a lot of sort of moving scenes in this movie, and so one of them is when he's recuperating, and there's this old woman in this family that's helping him, and the way that he sort of discovers that he's going to be able to get revenge and reclaim the sword after he's lost it and been blinded is the kids start the kids in the household that he's living in start hiding the shoes that he's been making, and he's able to find them by hearing, and he realizes that he can train his ears so that he can fight and get revenge, and so it's kind of a key moment. Jimmy Wang Yu is the original one armed swordsman, so it's a fairly similar idea, but it's interesting that it happens much later in the movie in this one, and the way that the way that his blindness is used against him in the climax is very interesting. And again, I'm going to give away some things here. So the Tian Feng character is just, I mean, I love villains, and I've talked about some of the real evil, you know, top of the line villains that they've had in these movies, and this guy absolutely takes the cake. This is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's a 12. He is one of the most sadistic and evil villains that I've encountered, and he's just always out for number one, and his tactics are absolutely brilliant. In the climax, when he realizes that the Jimmy Wang Yu character is blind but still capable, he ends up kidnapping Jimmy Wang Yu's wife, the woman that nursed him back to health, and basically all the people that are still alive that matter to him. And he has his men charge forward with them, towards Jimmy Wang Yu, so that when he attacks the men, he ends up killing all the people that he loves. And I won't give away exactly how that plays out, but it ends with Jimmy Wang Yu just, tearing a path of revenge through everybody because he's so enraged by what the Tian Feng character has done. The final battle is really great, but I just think the best thing about this movie is when it decides not to use violence, when it decides to either focus more on story, focus on building up things, so that you might have more controlled fight choreography scenes where there's one or two really well placed swings, but not that they don't it's not just a mass of guys fighting. And it also, I think, it did a very good job of illustrating the importance of mercy in the movie. There's a few moments in the film where Jimmy Wang Yu in particular sort of stays his hand and decides not to kill somebody, and they're pivotal moments, and sometimes they work out for the best, sometimes they don't. But I thought that it was interesting that those kind of played out through the film. So I thought this was a really, really one of the best movies I've seen, frankly. And it was in 1968, which is kind of surprising given some of the fight choreography, because the fight choreography, which I really haven't talked a lot about, is quite excellent. And the framing of the scenes and everything is excellent. It's definitely, you can tell, that 14 Amazons look is present in the film. Not with the same wild costumes, but just the way that the scenes feel composed, the way that the director uses the positioning of characters. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I wish I had more intelligent stuff to say about it, but I just finished watching it, and I thought I'd do a video before I went to pick up my wife. Again, it's The Sword of Swords. It stars Jimmy Wang Yu and Tian Feng. It is directed by Cheng, Kang, and it's an awesome movie. The real key is the discipline that I think the director shows, and in knowing when not to use too much action. So I'll let people see it for themselves. But I thought it was outstanding, and it's definitely definitely worth picking up if you can get it. I don't know what the availability of the movie is. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, so if you do see it, you might have to actually buy it off eBay or Amazon. So hopefully they'll have it available on Amazon Prime or something relatively soon, because I know they've been putting more of these out. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I thought it was an interesting way to deal with a blind character, because sometimes these movies go too far in making it too easy for the hero after they've sort of recovered from whatever it is that's afflicted them, and in this one it still mattered, even though he overcame it, and he was able to still practice his kung fu and be an effective swordsman. There were still ways that his enemies were able to use it against him that made the fights interesting. And again, there are some like over the top melodramatic scenes in the film. I kind of like that stuff, and I thought it did it really well, and the way that they did it, it just added to the fight. So it's the kind of movie where you kind of get everything. You get the action, you get the melodrama. So you get a lot of different emotions over the course of the evening. And again, it is an 112 10 minutes, which is longer than a lot of these Shaw Brothers films. But I thought that it needed to be that, because you wouldn't have been able to build up the Jimmy Wang Yu character up to the point that they did by the time that they blinded him. And it was a very interesting decision to do it that late in the movie, because it's sort of the same effect you get in the Return of Condor Heroes, where and a spoilers again, but where the main character doesn't lose his arm until midway through, and so you're sort of, it's very easy to take something away from a character early on, and then that becomes the defining trait of them. But it's a lot more interesting, I think, when the character has been defined and then something is taken from him. I think that's I don't know. I think that's interesting, and again, but for personal reasons, it resonates with me when they do it in that way. So I think that it was a very effective movie in that respect. And I'm sorry to ramble after the review's basically over, but I'm starting to get some thoughts now. So yeah. So anyways, I'll let you go. I recommend this movie. I think it was exceptional. I thought that the everything about it was great, and I really liked the discipline that the director uses with stuff like the sword, waiting, taking his time, and not using it all the time, but when he does, it's very effective, and sort of not going all out on the fights until later on. And I do promise, by the end, it's a massacre. It's a massacre at the end. It's a wonderful display of kung fu and sword twirling violence, but there's reasons for why that happens. It's not just randomly thrown in, and I appreciated that. So I will let you go, and I will have some more reviews up. I mentioned I was going to do a review of Corpse Mania as part of sort of an ongoing series that I've been doing, so I'll be doing that, and I'll be getting back to my Michelle Yeoh reviews as well. So until then, I will talk to you later.